In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP. Hey, you guys.
Hola, bom dia, alegria. Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show. Tudo bem? Como estás? How are you this morning? I have to tell you, I'm a little, how do I put this? I was out partying on a school night last night. Now, normally I stay up quite late. I'm usually up till possibly 1 o'clock, most mornings, as it turns out, right? And I was in bed, I think probably 1 or 1:30 last night, and that's because I was out with a gentleman who some of you will know if you've ever been to San Martino. What is that? 5 gigabytes of something or other flying onto the screen. Not now, Microsoft. We're trying to do a show here. Yes, if any of you have been to San Martino de Porto and you've been to the Tourist Information Office, you may well have met the legend, the local legend, who I hope will be a transatlantic global legend in the coming months, Gaston. What an amazing fellow he is. And he's been inviting me out for a drink and to see some live music at one of my favorite watering holes, it has to be said, in San Martino de Porto. Ana and Ricardo's Baia Cultural Bar. You might know that as well. An amazing place just set back from the beach. And I made I've made a San Martino de Porto video and I featured them in it. And they were so kind to us, Anna especially, who when we first lived 5 years ago. Funny enough, yeah, this is the sort of thing we're writing about, or I'm writing about in the Should I Move to Portugal memoirs of our first 5 years here in Portugal. They feature because one evening when we were in the hotel, when our camper van broke down, if you recall, and we were trapped in San Martino de Porto in paradise, living in a hotel. And I went out for a takeaway one evening, and the Biocultural Bar has a fabulous menu and a really lovely acknowledgement of local produce and wine and cheese and so on. Had some of that last night. And when I was doing a takeaway, Anna said, "We don't really do a takeaway, but you could just take the plates with you and bring them back in the morning." And that was my first taste of, absolute trust and kindness here in San Martino de Porto. And I returned there 5 years later, of course, last night with Gaston. And there we were eating the local cheese and drinking, well, local beer. Sagres, does that count as local beer? One of my other companions, the deputy president, I'll have you know, of the town, was drinking a nice glass of red. And it was so lovely to be in this atmosphere of music and conversation. And towards the end of the evening, I found out some of the most incredible history about San Martino de Porto. And I want to get Gaston on. I went French then, didn't I? I want to get Gaston on the program to talk about this history. Mrs. M is listening. I'll see if I can get her a little bit excited in the background by talking like a Frenchman. Because the English girls, they love the Frenchman who live across the water. And he's a sexy man. He was the water. It's not working for her. She's shaking her head. Better stop because she'll be shaking her fist in just a moment. Why am I talking about her in the third person behind the scenes when she could well be joining us on the screen?
Yeah, it's fair to say I don't always agree with Carl. But hey, this is a section about what he doesn't tell you. So let's have a look now, shall we?
First thing we agree on, the Frenchman being a sexy beast to the English girls.
I have no idea why you're trying to excite me about French men. I have no interest in other people.
And even when they talk to you, so like this, I whisper in your ear.
I didn't even like it when I lived in France.
Oh, zut alors. Okay, well, I'll stop. How are you this morning? Tudo bem? Como estás?
Bang.
Hope I did bang, bang, bang. How many?
Bang, bang, bang. I have wet hair. You can see I've been really busy since I've got up this morning. So
I got to bed after 1:30 possibly,
yeah.
after a night out. I hope I didn't disturb you too much.
No,
you
it's nice.
you,
It was
you did
nice to have a little conversation with you.
You remember that
Some of
because
it, yeah.
you were in a theta state, I think, for some of
Oh,
it.
was I talking
Yes,
absolute rubbish?
you wanted me to wake you up, and I said, "Do you want to wake up?" And you said, "Well, it is about the things that are being planned at the moment." And I thought she's not really awake here. I'll just good night. You were trying to make a meaningful response. No offense, but it wasn't quite working.
Just like every day then.
But it sounds like you were up a couple of hours after anyway, at 4 or 5 this morning. But
No. I was up at 6.
all right, what's your bang rating then? We had a bang, didn't we, from Marcus on Tuesday? We've got a. Let me do this. We can make this work. From T Duck this morning, we have a 4 duck rating this morning.
I'm not sure if I want to do it with ducks, but I would say it's a 5 bang day because I hear we've got good news in the community.
Isn't this
Somebody's
lovely?
got their house.
Go back to the last jingle pad.
Yeah. See, that's what we should be celebrating is all everybody else's good news.
Absolutely, and we will. I was always going to get round to it.
Speaking of celebrations, I put this up on the screen to remind me. It's my dad's birthday today, and I'd like to wish him happy birthday.
Alan.
Is that supposed to be my mum?
No, don't say that.
Why are you shouting like that? Who does that?
Video?
No, what video?
I'll let other people explain that. Alan, to you. Right. Parabéns, Pai Alain. He would be Alain, wouldn't it? Because I got called Alain Partridge the other day.
Did you?
Yeah, Alain, back in Blighty, in the Medway of the Kent. Happy birthday to you, Senor Tanner. I wonder what was a tanner in Portuguese. I wonder. Somebody who likes working with leather. Stop it.
Yeah.
Bon dia todos from Buddy. Today I am dancing the happy dance. Fantastic. We're on our way to Saya, place of the cheese. Blessed are the cheesemakers for you this morning. We have secured the house. That is such good news, buddy.
Excellent news. Really good.
On this journey, right? The ups and downs that are sometimes occur here in Portugal. Well done for hanging on in there, buddy. When do you take possession, and when is the housewarming? We'll see you there. Thanks from Buddy with the congrats.
You should totally do housewarming parties.
I'll DJ at them. If you have a housewarming party,
you're a great DJ.
James will come along. We can do a rite of passage, a celebration, can't we?
Or we could all go and just get a bit tipsy.
And not but we can do all of it, can't we? we can have a somewhat not solemn but respectful marking of wow, you really have moved to Portugal, and wow, you really have got a place to live here, your own place, your dream home in Portugal. That deserves a blessing, I think, with words, with gestures, with music, with champagne, with food. And conviviality for sure. Because, my friends, look, this is the La Sudoku today. Juntos somos mais fortes.
Yes, we are. That's true. I got that straight away.
Did you?
Together together we're stronger.
Yeah. Okay. So that is. I do want to do some news today. I advertise this show as somewhere that the weather and news is talked about, and very rarely we get round to it. So, and maybe people don't really care. Maybe we can let that go. But I think just sometimes it's good to know about the weather. I mean, here's my weather picture, literally this morning.
We're still in fly season, put it that way. So it's still quite
fly
warm.
Season still. And look, the pampas grass has gone. This is no longer the.
Oh wow! Is that at the top of our road?
That is the picture from. This is how parochial this show is. I show you pictures from the top of my street, everybody. And unless you send me pictures on 913-590-303, I will keep doing it. Sun breaking.
Oh, wow. Where's everyone going to take their dogs? Wow.
Well, I trudged across there manfully. You'd have been proud of me, like an alpha male with his 2 alpha wolves this morning. But that is where that's where the playground's going to be. They don't really look like alpha wolves, do they? But yes, that's where the playground's going to be. The pampas grass is gone, Mrs. M. So a different clientele moving into the top of the street there. I think was this yesterday.
Yes, my only difficulty now is where do I get more supports from my garden? It was really, really helpful to be able to walk up to the top of the road.
No, I'll cross the road for you in an alpha male gesture. The other side of the main road.
Because those tall grasses were perfect supports, perfect free supports.
I will get
I look like a bit of a nutter walking up the road with loppers and a big bag to put them in. But, there's free supports everywhere for all of your plants.
Free supports. Isn't that a nice feeling? And I will do it for you, because it's not right for a lady to be seen walking around a neighborhood carrying 2 pieces of pampas grass. People might get the wrong idea. We're all stoked, says Baddy, which is absolutely right and fantastic. And others are chiming in to wish you congratulations here. Nice one. Let's go. Let's do all of these. It's important, isn't it, that we acknowledge this very special moment for you, Baddy. Owen's in with a nice one. And congrats, Buddy, from Suze, you're up nice and late or early, whichever way you look at it. It's a morning, beautiful people as well from Owen this morning. And congrats from Lord Gilchrist is here. All rise. Who doesn't like to rise first thing in the morning? And that is awesome news from the OLP, also here staying up late with a hi, fellow jumpers. Morning, everyone, from Lord Gilchrist, and a bon dia, a simple bon dia from Stephen, a simple man, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I
love how people have their little kind of like special names and things in this community. Right. It's really sweet.
It is, isn't
like
it? Nicknames.
Like the OLP. It sounds like he's a or she's a. Sorry, because I don't stick around too much.
She.
Forgive me.
No,
it sounds like the OLP is some kind of gangster rapper.
Me. Yeah, you sound with OLP. You know me.
It's taking me back to the when I used to go to these little rave parties and stuff as a teenager.
Little rave, where you first heard my song, is that right?
Yes, that's true. There's a nice I used to dance to it. Yeah,
there you go. God Squad, turn a tip of the day. Then we're staying at a sports-focused hotel. Now, some people will be thinking a bit like when they think glamping. I'm not going camping for a holiday.
Yeah,
that's a nightmare. And this would sound similar to some people, I have to say. We're staying at a sports-focused hotel. However, we are thinking of having a Gumper gathering here, and it has encouraged both of us to be more active. How about that? Not for everyone, I know, but perhaps you can find a group or club that can encourage you. Yes, and then look forward to the annual pilgrimage, the physical PT pilgrimage in PT. How about that? We could call it PT in PT, couldn't we? We could call it PT in PT. That's there you go. Write that down, somebody. Bon dia, Gumpers from the James. Look, this is a rap band. We've got a baddie, we've got an OLP, and we've got a slug.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. It really does sound like a rap band.
Yes. Feliz quinta a todos. Aqui tem feito. Muito bem, obrigado. Notwithstanding being out last night. And I want to play a bit of that music. Maria João Silva joins us. What a wonderful Renaissance woman she is. Now, I will come back to Henry Miller in just a moment, because I need to say, what other Portugal-focused live stream YouTube channel actually has Portuguese people on it? Unless it is Portuguese. I mean, we're talking about expat focus. Yeah, most of the Portuguese ones do, obviously, but the ones that are expat, foreign, and immigrant focused, how many of you have Portuguese people tuning in and taking part in your efforts? We do, don't we? The rest, I would say, are Portugal, aren't they? Did you
Portugal?
Yeah, like looking at Portugal, going, "Whoa, I'd love to live there." Whoa, look at that! That's over there.
Look at those oranges.
Yes, there's some kind of voyeurism of expats already living here. Those are the Portugal channels. We're a little bit different. We're in the middle somewhere, aren't we? We actually have real life, and we can show you those tests, those DNA tests to prove it, if necessary. Real Portuguese people on. Not really.
Oh, I was thinking, who are you going to get to do DNA tests?
No, there was a joke about having truly authentic Portuguese people, and some of the listeners here who are expats are drifting into authentic Portugueseness, as you will see.
Yeah, they do
as well. We're like James. This then cue this from James. The aim of life is to live, and to live means to be aware, joyously, drunkenly, serenely, divinely aware. That was me at one point. I think, definitely.
I don't know if I've ever been drunkenly, serenely aware. I mean, I'm happy when I'm drunk, but I don't know if I'm serene.
It's good to agree with you, wife. And
I'm kind of giggly.
You are. There are different kinds of drunkenness and different kinds of drunks, aren't there? There are the boring drunks. I'm not saying you're one of those. I'm
a giggly drunk.
And there are the spiritual drunks who Henry Miller might have been, but then again, he might have not. Somebody will send us. Did he not date Marilyn Monroe, Henry Miller? I wonder. And she would have known if he was a divinely, serenely a drunken person or not, more than anyone, if that was the case. Thank you for that. Cue this. I think I missed it yesterday. I'm so sorry. Yogi Berra. Now, you know, as of yesterday, you know who Yogi Berra is, don't you, Mrs. M? A nickel ain't worth a dime anymore. Look at that inflation for you. Yogi Berra. A nickel is a 5-cent coin. Thank you for the decoding here, James. And the dime is a 10-cent coin. Talking of Americans, you'd have loved it. And ain't worth a dime means worthless. Thank you for that granular analysis there of that for anyone who might not have understood. Spoke to an amazing American yesterday, trying to place his accent. T-Duck says he hasn't got an accent. And Dan himself, who gave us the most beautiful interview, looking out over the bay yesterday, T-Duck, again, excelled himself with the most amazing, not only setting up a beautiful studio, outside broadcast studio, overlooking the bay, and thank you to Nelson, who allowed us to do it in his cafe as well.
Once again.
T-Dot went off and took the most amazing footage of the back streets in the bay of San Martino de Porto as well. So a lovely afternoon yesterday. Great to see everybody who was at the meetup. New faces and old faces alike. Or should I say familiar rather than old faces? Like that. It's true, though. What was I saying? Oh, and Dan was there. It was there last week, but just stepped forward to the microphone and to me said the most wonderful things: culture shock, community, and what was the other C? But check it out for yourself on the YouTube channel.
I listened in this morning, actually.
Oh, did you?
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. Very much so. Deep thought of the day then from Walt Disney, who the Scottish philosopher. His friend Walt does, but the other Walt Disney. The way to get is that a cake or a meringue? The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. True, right? Walter Elias Disney was an American animator. Never heard of him. American animator, film producer, and entrepreneur. Now, if you're from Porto, you might call yourself an entrepreneur, mightn't you? But I would have it as entrepreneur, formerly business guy, right? But now entrepreneur. Portuguese saying, Ash, what does this mean then, Mrs. M? I'm making
Looks
it easy.
Can be deceiving.
Very good. How did you get that? It's on our website. This is what I do. Oh, I haven't changed the blooming date. I thought I was so ahead of myself there. It's not Quarta-feira, 26th of October. It's Quinta-feira, 27th. But I've got the Portuguese saying of the day, right? And should we have a look at our news desk? Because it nicely sets up our guest today, because she is featured in the news. So let's play that jingle for the news, shall we? Do you know, I nearly interrupted myself again and said, is there anything you want to say before I do that, Mrs. M? But that could be fatal, right?
You know what? You are on a roll.
Am I gabbling?
You're sorry, I don't know.
Sorry if I'm gabbling, everybody. Sorry if I'm gabbling. Oh my word, that's quite the build-up.
Did I just get transported back into the 80s or something? That font and everything. Did you do that?
No, that was Dougie who did that for us.
It's lovely. I love it. I mean, it's really kind of it's what's the word I'm looking for? I loved how the music just slowed down as that woman was pulling up her bikini bottoms.
What woman? I didn't notice anything.
It reminds me of like something from the 80s.
What, because
an 80s new
sexual politics and graphics?
Yes,
it's a bit 70s sexually.
Yeah. And you know, I imagine somebody behind the news desk with massive shoulder pads and like really big hair. Well, those two.
Almost like what's that character that I can't remember the actor's name or the character he plays, but the Anchorman guy, Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
What's his but Ron Burgundy might appear.
Yeah, Ron Burgundy would love that, and he'd turn up with one of his weather women, wouldn't he?
That's a friend of mine in the video there. Well, I can live in hope, says Ron Burgundy. And that was Maria João. Well spotted. I mean, you're expecting a rousing climax as well, and the news better be good after all of that, right? So let's go.
Okay, come on. What's our news then?
It's actually quite dull and contemporary compared to all those rich colours and buttocks and stuff going on in the video, right?
Yeah, so need to do something about that. Let's catch picture? The eyes.
That is just the index. Look at all these news stories that have been written for the Gumpers. Tonight, we've got the Portugal Club, first one. So that at 9:30 we'll be going live. What's your Portuguese possibility? That's come around quick, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we'll be throwing the show open tonight at 9:30. Portugal Club is usually a top level benefit for those folks who support us with that kind of membership. Tonight we're going to throw open halfway through that, and discuss the Portuguese possibility, a lot like what Dan was talking about yesterday on that interview. We saw this, didn't we, at the weekend, Mrs. M? This exhibition, Torres Vedras. That'll be a lovely trip out for Gumpers. There was these lovely golf videos made by John as well, for those of you interested in golf. That's a Marmite subject, for sure, isn't it? And then here, look at this. Between the golf and the meetups, the new portugalmeetups.com website. And look, you can see on the map, they are coming in, as well as Andy's events. Well, let's have a look at Andy's events at the end of the show as well, and look at all the wonderful work he's been doing. But in between, we were interviewed, weren't we, by the Maria João Silva, who joins us at 9 o'clock, not long from now. What did you make then of being interviewed by Maria João Silva? She's quite extraordinary, isn't she?
Well, it was great. It was such a lovely experience. I mean, I didn't know I was about to be interviewed. Like Cole said, come on, we're just going to chat with with our new friend. So, it was a pretty heavy sort of like mum day, really, wasn't it? And I just wrapped a blanket around me. And it's really interesting that Portugulish asked if that woman, picking her bottom, knew she was being filmed. I really didn't realize I was going into an interview when I went in. And I mean, I know I'm not exactly prepared to be on the show today, but, I'd have made a bit more of an effort if I'd have realized. But it was just really nice. I mean, she's got such a lovely sort of energy about her. She asks really great questions. It's just so strange being interviewed, because I'm usually doing interviews with other people.
Yes. But there you were, being interviewed by. and suddenly we were on the spot, weren't we? Tables turned.
Yeah, totally.
But it was amazing talking to her. And I did talk to her briefly with Mia Eshmerish a couple of weeks ago, and she was talking about conscious parenting, which is something I'm sure will be included in our conversation this morning. So any questions for Mrs. M on our new What He Doesn't Tell You feature? We're not entirely sure about this, are we? I mean, Deagle, thank you, Deagle, for saying yesterday that this is fast turning into your favorite segment of the show, none taken. But you're not entirely comfortable with this, Mrs. M, are you?
No, I mean, I just think it's pretty much said that if I don't really agree with you, I'm going to question you live on air.
Sounds very confrontational. And I think people would love to see that, frankly.
I'm sure they would.
I'm not sure I would enjoy it, but I think other people might like to see that.
I'm not exactly sure what my contribution is, but...
Speaking of buttocks, I think Lord Gilchrist has got a wiggly hair, and I will make no finer point on that. He's been very critical this morning. Surely it should be called Portugal News Desk. Okay. So
what was it called?
It's Munson's News Desk. The apostrophe is in the wrong place, because if he just moves that apostrophe, that means both of the Munsons, which is what you're getting on the screen at the moment. But anyway, so we get Carl's Daily News. I'm hearing a somewhat sneering tone here. And then, did she know she was being filmed there? And suffice
it
to
is
say,
good. I mean, it is a good question to ask.
Praia da Rocha Beach is very 80s, says Victoria. And to answer your question, Lord Gilchrist, with your very critical tone this morning, yes, Victoria did know she was being filmed. So there you go. A Zay Pavino to you, my friend, this morning. Now, if you think, if anything you see on the show, you think, it should be this, it should be that, do it. This is the community contributed show. Those people, what's that great phrase? Those people who are criticized shouldn't get in the way of people who are getting on with stuff. I haven't put that quite right. So, Lord Gilchrist, get your video editing software out and get ladies with long Victorian skirts on in your video who have been signed off and know that they're being filmed, if that's the point you're making, sir. Because I can't wait to see women in Victorian swimsuits made entirely out of wool in the Algarve. Oh, okay, maybe
Let's put that back.
Yes, maybe it's me. Okay, all right. I'm sorry, Andy. Sorry, did I just go off on one there?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay,
but I'm sure you'll be forgiven.
and I hope the video will follow soon.
I tell you what, that would be really funny. I love the fact that you've put the challenge out there, and it shouldn't just be to Andrew. It could be to anyone. You know, if you're watching stuff, if you're observing life, and you're really enjoying being in Portugal, make something. We'll feature it.
Yes.
You know?
What's this bit? She's talking about sex tapes now, Reggie's, and that is, I don't know. I'm not quite sure. I'm not, even if I did know, I wouldn't own up to that. I don't think. Antonio F. Carl, did anyone? Okay, the news. Okay, different. Exactly. Again, if you don't like the news I'm featuring, send in some. And Antonio F. is doing just that. A real Portuguese person who I mentioned before. Did anyone mention the news about the uncovering of King Dinis's Dom Dinis, which is got? I love that the phrase, the word Dom Dinis. It's got a lovely. Was he called Dinis the Pinis in his own time? I wonder. Probably not, because it's not the same word in Portuguese. But Dom Dinis the Pinis, his tomb, along with his. Oh, that is the Pinis we're talking about, possibly. His 7.
You really walked straight into that.
Who doesn't like a 7-year-old sword first thing in the morning? That is old and familiar.
700-year-old sword.
How old did I say? 7-year-old.
7.
Oh, that's
gross.
Awful.
Yeah, take that back.
There are times in a live stream where you wish you could just turn back time, and that's one of them. I will do that again. So Dinis the Pinis and his 700-year-old sword. Incredible. Thank you, Antonio F. And sorry for turning that into a great moment of archaeological.
Well, you made it rather sordid. See what I did there?
Hold on a minute. Wow. Okay. Hi all. I wonder that there's quite a good insurance possibility there, isn't there, with the big old sword? I would have thought for Nunu. Get on that site, that archaeological site. That needs insuring. I think there. What could possibly go wrong? That's quite the responsibility, isn't it? Handling a 700-year-old sword. It definitely needs underwriting. Does that? As the actress said to the bishop. Touche, Mrs. M. It's sword play. Wordplay, sword play. There's only one letter different. Isn't that amazing? Look where we went this morning with our improv. Very good. And boo. What's that for?
I think it's because you're talking about a 7-year-old one. So
yes. All right. Okay, let's move on, shall we? And ew.
And we also had ew from Victoria.
We both tried to put on the screen at the same time, meaning that it is. I'm sorry. It was a mistake. Mrs. M is great. Yes. It's true, no question. Carl, the circus barker. Come on, come all, come see the wonders of the authentic Portuguese gumpers. No touching. Just you can smell them, but you're not no.
Oh, give it a rest. Oh my God.
This is the worst show I've ever had, isn't it? It started out so well, and it's really gone off in some terrible and embarrassing. And you can see how red I am. You can see how genuinely embarrassed I am on the screen. That is the problem. When you're doing a live screen, you see your face reddening in front of you. Look at that. Let's change the subject. Thank you very much, Jane. That's a great news. All right. Go to the BBC if you want so-called news.
You might have been over-egging it, talking about the news and weather. I mean, you can actually talk about the weather because you've been out today. The weather locally.
I have actual experience.
If you go outside, you'll see it's really nice. It's warm still. There you go.
Best weather report ever. If you go outside, you'll see it's really nice. Yes, well done.
There you go.
Well, on that same note, though, the weather is what you experience yourself. This is how it should be. The news is what we're experiencing, and we can share that with other people.
Yeah.
I mean, what you've been brought up to believe is news. I'm going to go off on another one now. What you've been brought up to believe is news, and Mrs. M will back me up on this. It's just the thoughts of just a few editors in newsrooms around the world who've been programming your mind, Lord Gilchrist, for the last whatever it is, 40 years, telling you things that they think you should know. You had no choice in the matter. BBC reputation has plummeted in my.
Do you know what? My trust in the BBC went right down after 9/11 when they announced on BBC News that World Trade Center building number 7 had collapsed, and it was in the background. And you can find that on YouTube. It keeps getting taken down, it keeps getting put back up again.
Yes.
So they were reporting that something was going down before it had actually been deliberately detonated and destroyed. So they had insider news. They were making the news, and they still do, in my opinion.
Well, that's what they call themselves, newsmakers.
They literally are.
It's not the truth. It's not the real world. It's an opinion of people.
But when you see it for the first time, that they've deliberately done something, you then start to ask, well, hang on, is this really impartial? Or they haven't been impartial for at least 20 years.
Some say 100 years. Well, they don't. Anyway.
Well, who funds them?
It's the entertainment division, isn't it, of the military-industrial complex, and that is a really dark turn. It's a really dark turn to have taken when we're upbeat and joyous and just about to announce our guest, Maria João Silva. So let's have a little palate cleanse, shall we? Of some sort.
Okay, let's do some breathing of some sort. Let's have a cleansing breath.
I'm going to play some music, actually. This is a great way to cleanse the palate. I'm going to play you the music that I heard last night, and I would like Maria João Silva to tell us what it is, because I think it's a Portuguese classic. They don't actually report the domestic news. I think he's having withdrawal symptoms from the British BBC as an expat. Cooking my Spanish breakfast. What does that mean? That sounds like a sexual euphemism. Oh, I see. I beg your pardon. The bad British. He's really angry about that. He doesn't like my news. He doesn't like their news. Okay. And James, tonight's forecast, dark. Changing world, widely scattered light in the morning. George Carlin's hippy dippy weatherman. Oh, that sounds good, doesn't it? And Chris is in, boxing coach Chris. Well wishes to you and the missus from Mrs. Tompkins. Oh, do send a message. Record a voicemail with her. 913. You see my WhatsApp number there, Chris. You can send us a message from Mrs. Tompkins. Tell us what her apple pie is like in this particular baking season. She says you read out from YouTube, but not the Facebook feed. That is so not true. A lot of complaints this morning. It's a complaining atmosphere. I started it. No doubt someone bigger are always influencing our thoughts and behavior. Ooh, if I had
Yes, I like the way you're thinking there, Nunu.
Yes, I'm going to cleanse with FSOJ. What does that mean?
Freshly squeezed orange juice.
Oh, well done. Okay. And British brainwashing. Come on, let's get off it now, everybody. I'm sorry for taking you down that avenue. Let's back up the truck. Tortilla de patata. Very good. And our house, says OLP, in Montana had a small blizzard on Sunday. There you go. Some real weather from a real person. October the 15th. It was 92 Fahrenheit. Something's going on, isn't it? Okay. Play you some music now to change the mood a little bit. This is from last night at Baia Cultural. And after this is a lovely welcome for Maria João Silva, because she too is a musician, you know. How good was that? What a welcome from Maria João Silva.
Bom dia.
Bon dia.
Bon dia. Bon dia.
How are you?
I'm fine. And you? How are you?
Yeah, we're really good. I'm also feeling a little bit tired.
I can imagine. Did you sleep well tonight?
Yeah. I was like, at the moment when I fall asleep, that's it. I'm out. And then all of a sudden I wake up bolt upright. So yeah.
Who doesn't like to bolt upright first thing in the morning? I know I do now.
It's very, very busy times at the minute.
You've got a guitar in your background. This is lovely.
Yeah.
You're a musician as well. Could you tell us what that tune was? Was that a classic Portuguese favorite?
Well, I remember that, if I'm not mistaken. We used to, in college, we had like a group. I don't know if in England you have it, a group of people of students that, how do I say this? It's like a group of musicians that sing to represent the university in several places. We call it the tuna. Not tuna to eat. It's the tuna. It's the music band, and that's one of the songs we used to sing in that group.
Oh, wow!
But I don't remember the name of the song.
But it's a traditional favorite for
yeah.
And the whistling, everyone can take part in the whistling, and it gets a bit unruly and out of hand at that point, doesn't it? You find out who the musicians are in the room when everyone starts whistling, I think. But that was really fantastic last night. I think they're called something like Tribal Turbulence. I am talking on WhatsApp to Gush Down to find out exactly who they are, and they'll be back next week with a female singer at Baía Cultural here in San Martino de Porto. A booking is advisable. But what I mean, 3 men making that sound, like 2 percussionists, the lead singer with his guitar and his tambourine style bells on his ankle, no backing tracks or anything. They were making that sound. They were superb. It was a great evening. And you too are a musician, Maria, right? I wasn't expecting to talk about that this morning, but you sing and play as well.
I do. Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, and do you think you might be doing that for us one of these days on this new regular slot of yours?
Sure. Yes.
There you go. Spirit.
Yes. Yes, for sure.
Most people you ask, you say, "Oh, you're a musician. What do you play?" "I'll play the guitar." "Well, do you want to play?" "Oh, no, I haven't. Oh, no, I couldn't. No." And but I love it. Yes, you'll do it.
I will. Yes. I'm not a great guitar player. I just play, by ear.
Yeah.
And but I guess so. Yes.
That's so cool.
One of these days.
It's a sign. I mean, it's a sign right next to you is a guitar right there. It's definitely a sign.
Yeah. So, well, when we were being interviewed last week, you had your guitar actually in the background on the sofa with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I usually have it because, all of a sudden something comes to my head and I pick up the guitar and I start playing.
Do you? Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, we can get a band together as well when we have our Gumper gatherings. I think that
I'd love that.
Like a jam would be great. And I know.
Oh my God.
Wouldn't it be fantastic when we have our gathering? Yes. Everyone bring their instruments. And
at 9 o'clock in the morning, that would be.
No, awesome. we can have a weekend retreat, and not a retreat.
Oh my God.
A party. Yes. And when that comes, please join us and please bring your guitar and other people. I mean, Don, who joined us at the Silver Coast meetup, he plays a mandolin. And he was serenading us a few weeks back at the meetup. People are so talented and often so modest about their talents, which I think applies to you. Do we call you Maria João or do we call you Maria?
You can call me Maria or MJ. I'm used to MJ.
MJ. Okay, let's go with that. Then, MJ, that's fantastic. We would only say Maria João Silva if you were in trouble, right? That's a sort of parental.
Yes.
Maria João Silva. All right. So MJ is then. And where we can start our conversation, MJ, is with your, I think to just as a soundbite, just as a way of pigeonholing you, which we don't like to do, but just to give people a reference point. You write and talk about conscious parenting, which I know will be of great interest to Mrs. M here, as it is to me. You've written books on this. You're a regular blogger. I think you're interviewed about this, but probably around the world because it's such a fascinating subject. And what a brilliant name for a book. Rich Parent, Poor Parent. Can we start there? What made you write that and what's it about?
Well, that was the first title. It really progressed to another name. So when I started writing the book, the first time I wrote the book, which is called now Kids Don't Misbehave.
Yeah.
It started out by being Rich Parent, Poor Parent.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And
then it progressed to because I inserted a lot of new things that I wanted to explore in the book, and then it progressed to evolved to kids don't misbehave, because that's exactly the message that I wanted to convey. Is that kids don't misbehave. It has to do with our perspective of, our expectations, and not the way they are or they behave.
Yes. And rich parent, poor parent.
I totally agree with that.
Well, certainly, I'm sure we'll be talking about that this morning. But rich parent, poor parent was a reference to Robert Kiyosaki, presumably, or like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And
it was inspired in that. Yes.
Yeah, and so rich parent, poor parent. Does that mean that whether you're rich or poor, the principles of parenting are the same? Is that what you were getting at with that particular play on the words?
It was in the beginning when I gave that title. It was like we can be rich parents when we understand our children, when we listen, when we get them and accept them as they are.
Yes.
And poor parents when we choose to be authoritative and punish, and you see, and that we can all evolve to be rich parents when we nurture and learn how to be parents, because that's something that we don't learn in school, actually. Well, right now there are schools that are that direct us and to that subject, and that teach us to be parents and use positive parenting to raise our kids. But in the past, that didn't happen, right? So that was kind of the message that I wanted to convey.
Yes, well,
I think it's a really important message, because, I mean, I don't know what parenting was like when you were being raised by your parents, but in the UK, my parents used to say children should be seen and not heard all the time. And there's this definite method of knowing your place. And there's TV programs, with the baby whisperer and all these experts that are really saying that child is manipulative and you've got to take control of that child. And we do completely the opposite. I truly think it's
thank God. Thank you.
Because I really think I have memories of not feeling very trusted as a child. When I would say things and people would say, that's not true, or that's not your experience. And I think if we're denying the experience of our children when they're in a place of trauma or upset, you're training them to hide. You're training them not to have their needs met. And I think, like, if they learn that their needs can be met, then they'll, I don't know, maybe not have to spend the first 40 years of their life healing from their childhood.
That's true.
Or 50 years.
Or more, some more.
Or never. Or never.
Yes. Lots of cases like that. That spend their whole lives, and then that reflects in their future relationships with their spouse, with their kids, at work. With themselves too.
Yeah, totally. Maria, can I ask, how did you come to want to write this in the first place? Like, were you always believing this as a child and then it became a passion as an adult, or was it, in having children yourself? How did it evolve for you?
It's a bit of both. When I was 9 years old, I think I told Carl this story the other time. When I was 9, I went to school and my teacher taught us about the Declaration of the Rights of Children.
Right.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I didn't tell you that story the other time.
No, you didn't.
No. And then that hit me. Somehow, that hit me. It made so much sense. And in that moment, I was 9. It was like, okay, I felt something inside that someday something would happen related to that. I can't explain really. But that made a lot of sense to me. And when I was 18, I started to tutor and teach children and then it evolved, and I've been teaching for 28 years now, and I worked with children of all ages.
Yeah.
From little babies to adults, passing by all the, all the ages. And I started to research when I started working with little children, because what I saw in them was not the feedback that I was getting from school or from their parents. It didn't, resonate. And then I started researching and finding out ways of making the lessons funny and interesting in order to capture their attention, and not, because I was teaching, so I'm responsible a little bit for their feedback and for the way, if they're bored in the lesson, well, they will, start yawning and wanting to go to the bathroom and everything. So my research started there. And then when I had my own child, I already had all this background from the research that I had. And I was not happy with the way I was raising my child. Because I had my own things that I was working on within myself. And then I started to learn about connection and positive parenting, and I was like, oh my God, this is it. And then in a day, it was like that. My mind flipped, and I was like, okay. So because I was watching my son crying, and I couldn't do anything to help him, and I was like, oh my God, what is missing here? What is the link that is missing here?
What a moment.
Yeah.
What a moment.
Yeah, it was a ha-ha moment for me.
Yes.
And I remember it vividly.
Yes. Yes.
And I was already writing a few articles about parenting and education. But in that moment, I was like, oh my God, no, my son is not misbehaving. My son is not having a tantrum. My son is hurting right now because there's some need that he has that I'm not meeting.
Bless you. Bless you.
And
wow. What a break. I mean, isn't it weird that we even have something called positive parenting?
And
that we might be and that you might have a breakthrough of that kind. I mean, that is just so obvious when you put it like that, but it's not how things tend to go, is it?
That's true. No.
Well, I think one of the reasons why it doesn't like parenting doesn't appear to be like that in general is because for most people, the moment they have children, they're separated from their children because they can't afford to run their house, pay their bills. So it's almost like a societal expectation that you get straight back on the treadmill.
That's true.
And other people are responsible for your children while you're working, and it's very difficult to to go from being in your work mode and then being into your mum mode, and then managing your house, and if you have more children, you're just like on this hamster wheel going round and round and round, and it's hard. Like the way you're talking about parenting, it does take a bit longer because
that's true.
And I think you save yourself time in the long run, but it takes time to care that much, I think.
But even when we decide to not work for a period of time to raise our children, most parents don't have the tools. Because we are so, our head is so brainwashed. You have to raise your child. You tell them what they can do, what they can't do. They don't have a voice, and I'm not at all for that. You have to listen to your child every time when they're crying, where they're talking, and to understand them. And the thing is that I came to realize is that we refuse to prepare ourselves to be parents.
Refuse.
We go to
okay.
Because when women are pregnant, for example, it's something that I've been observing for a long time. We are so focused on having the baby, on a beautiful experience, that we don't remember that when the baby is born, there is going to be a major shift. and that there are things that are going to happen that we don't know how to handle. And the more we prepare, the better we'll be able to handle the situations when they appear.
Yeah.
And not, categorize them as tantrums, as misbehavior. Because the statistics, I don't want to go into that, but I had a friend that helped me have access to statistics of physical punishment, and they are not beautiful to see.
No. I remember being quite shocked seeing parents punishing their children in Portugal in a way that I hadn't really seen in England. I'd love to know how your way of parenting fits into your culture's way of parenting, because I noticed that this is a very matriarchal society in terms of parenting.
Yes.
And everyone has an opinion. Like, as a mum, like walking around town with small children, lots of Portuguese people always want to tell me, talk to me about my children, to pat their heads and say, oh, must do this. Like when I had a baby, I remember people shouting at me, actually saying I'd taken my baby out too soon. I had my baby all in a sling.
Oh,
like
my
Portuguese
goodness.
people.
Really?
Yeah, saying it's too cold to take your baby out. And our baby was wrapped up and in a sling, and I was wearing him, and he was breastfeeding. And I forgive them that, because they are really, like, what I've noticed about Portuguese people is they really love their children. But I think the sort of positive parenting that you might be talking about runs contra to the traditions.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
how is that for you? Because presumably you have a mum and a grandmother or aunts and things like that want to get involved.
Can I add a bit of context here before you do that, Maria? Absolutely. Great question, Mrs. M, and looking forward to your answer, MJ. Interestingly, the Portuguese saying of the day is "looks can be deceiving." As aparências iludem. Now, this is what I'm hoping you'll do for us on the 4th Thursday, on Indie Portugal Thursday. It's another side of Portugal. Now, we have our rose tinted, and I'm guilty as anybody of this, our view of Portugal. And I'm hoping over these weeks that you'll be with us, so each month you'll be helping us decode and understand another side or another layer of complexity, and probably profundity and depth and wisdom of Portuguese culture, because I don't see a lot of that, and that's why it was so good to meet you. And I think you're the right person to talk to us about this.
Oh, thank you.
And you're doing it about parenting and child raising today. So on this matter of looks can be deceiving and our received prejudice, judgment, stereotype, whatever, we do think, and I think it's true to a massive extent, that Portugal is very much a family culture, and the family is very important. And then there's what Mrs. M is saying. What else is there? And I think you go there, don't you, MJ? You are aware of how that sometimes might be not so functional, and how some things are unsaid, as well as that stereotype being often said.
Well, that's a great question. So should I start with answering you or Mrs. M?
Go where you want to go.
As you wish.
Louisa, it's true that it's, I'm roaming against the tide here, and I'm aware of that. And in Portugal, people, I don't know how it is in England, but in Portugal, people like to say things when, to interact, and the way they interact, sometimes it's not, doesn't resonate with us, you see, because when we become parents, there's a shift, but they do, I truly believe that Portuguese people, when they interfere like that, is like in a way of caring for you. It's a way, like, it's not, I want to interfere in your life, but it's like, well, let me have an opinion on this. Okay. Yeah. So it's pretty natural that happened to you with a baby.
Yeah.
But yes, positive parent is counterintuitive with what is practiced culturally in Portugal and traditionally. That's true.
Yeah. So how do you manage that in the context of your own wider family with maybe siblings?
Oh, they know me.
And
They know me.
so do they get?
There's nothing they can do.
Okay. Because I mean, one of my problems is a bit, believe it or not, I'm a bit of a people pleaser. I know I seem to nag Carl, but in reality, I mean, that's a bit of shtick really between us. But I'm actually a bit of a people pleaser, and so trying to fit into our own family context, you know, like trying to keep. I didn't want our kids to have any solids until, you know, at least 6 months, so they'd just been breastfed and really natural. And you know, between my mum and Carl's mum, all of our, well, actually not Solomon, the youngest one, but our two eldest had chips, ice cream, cake shoved in their face when I wasn't around. You know, like they interfere and
not by me.
You no, but it's just like, whoa, hang on. How do you find your voice as a parent? That was my difficulty, was just being able to say, you know what, that's how you did it, but I'm the parent now. You know, and I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong, but at that time I was really quite clear about it, and they did it anyway.
Yes, there are many parents going through that, and I have lots of stories that I could tell.
Yeah,
it was not my case because I'm fortunate enough to, you know, my mother respects my way, and she always has, and I never really had to say don't do this or don't do that. No, she knows from since I was 9 that I have a strong voice in this parenting thing and education, and but I never felt, in my particular case, that I had to say, hey, listen, I'm the parent here, don't go overboard. No, that's my specific case. And but I also have a way of, you know, shutting down all the noise around me, because I know that as I don't go with the tide, as my way of raising is so very different. And I never, it's not that I don't listen to what other people say, but I have my own inner compass. And that's what, and I used to be a people pleaser, but when I became a mother, mothering wise, not a people pleaser at all. It's like, I know where I want to go, and I listen to your input if that will add something positive to what I'm doing. If it throws me to the ground, I just shut it, and I keep going my own path.
I totally respect that in you, Maria. That's awesome. In hearing you talk so like with such clarity, I realized that one of the reasons that I do that is for the very reason that I want to raise our kids positively. I don't want our kids to spend their whole lives people pleasing.
Yes.
And, you know, that's why we're raising our kids in the way they are. So I recognize that old pattern of bending over to make way for other people is part of my family culture. And it's hard to have your own way of being, and well, I find it hard to really be myself and to really own it. And so I'm really hoping that our kids can have the space to get to know who they really are. So much so that they don't have to do that.
Yes, that's fundamental, because if that doesn't happen, if they don't feel seen, heard, and validated, and not validated like we saying, oh, great job. No, not that. Them for themselves, like, one thing that I always ask my son is, for example, whenever he was a little child, he would make a drawing and he would ask me, do you like it? And I would say, do you like it? Are you happy?
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to, I love it, of course, but I don't have to love it. You have to, feel good with what you're doing. And I keep doing that. He's now almost 13. And I always, challenge him to, in order for him to value himself and his work, he has to be able to evaluate it and appreciate it, right? Instead of depending on my opinion, because my opinion is just that. It's an opinion based on my views, my perspectives.
Yes.
And not if I say, oh, I don't like it. Oh, it's ugly, which is something that happens. Oh, that's ugly. That's, you got to change it, or use this color, or do this effect. No, I never did that. It's like, you have to love what you do so that you can, not so that you don't depend on other people's opinions to do and to, validate what you're doing.
Yeah.
And feel confident.
We would have a very different world, wouldn't we, if it were had more people in it who felt confident in their own self-expression rather than constantly looking for the validation of others.
I know.
So it's an important conversation to be having.
And it's so possible. Imagine
you started today, don't you? I mean, there's nothing that can really be done about the past, and I think what sometimes this can get into, and what I really am aware of with this sort of conversation. We had a political conversation yesterday, and it's a similar kind of context, because people sometimes feel a little bit judged or triggered by some of the things that are being said, and that's not our intention at all. And I think it's a great start, the idea that children don't misbehave, and we are unpacking that and talking about that. But of course it can bring the response, can't it? Well, they do, and they need to be dealt with, and it brings up hardwired responses, doesn't it, that people might have some value from questioning. And that's what I think that's the spirit in which we're entering into this conversation, is to discuss it. And I'm aware myself, I've got older children as well as younger children, and I thought I was a pretty cool parent to the older ones. They'll tell you otherwise, and very happily, and they often tell me otherwise. But it wasn't. What I realized now, it wasn't about being cool or being the opposite of what my parents did. It was about truly giving them what they needed. And the reason why I don't think I could give them what they needed is because of my own experience of being parented myself. I was coming out of a reaction to that rather than sitting in front of my kids, hearing exactly what they said and trying to understand what they really needed. I was going through all these filters, a bit like the news conversation we were having before. It was all going through my opinions and hardwiring of what parents should be, rather than a spontaneous reaction to what was happening in front of me. And I think one of the wonderful things you're saying, of the many wonderful things I think you're saying this morning, is to get back to that spontaneity of being there in the moment with your kid. Because there doesn't need to be a set response, does it? You don't have to, but it would be great to just be there, number one, and then speak honestly and openly to each other. Wouldn't that be an amazing start? Let alone like what you should or shouldn't be doing, just to be there in that way.
Yeah, my view is that we should look at our kids as if they were our best friends and we were their best friends.
Yes.
What do we do for our best friends? We are there. If they get mad, we stay there and we say, I'm here for you. You can unload your things on me and I won't go anywhere. And we should do the same things for our kids ever since they are born, they're babies. So that's my perspective about parenting. Because what happens is that's often we become, or we want to be, our children's friends when they grow up.
So but we're not their friends when they're small, are we? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where right. And this is not a critic of any sort. It's just what it is, because we are programmed, literally brain programmed, to raise our children. If they do something that we don't like, we punish. They have to meet our needs, not their needs. Our needs, our wants, our desires. They have to perform in school. When so many of them don't even need school, to be honest, because they self-teach themselves the things that they want to do. There are kids that at 3 years old, they know what they want to do for the rest of their lives. Something that makes them have fun. What's better than that? I mean, look at this show. This is amazing, fun. I mean, you see what I'm saying? If someone told you, oh, you can't do that because you have to get a serious job and pay your bills, and I mean,
my mum has said that to me for a long time now. But
I'm sure she has said it and expressed it within your family.
She's been on the show now. I think that's stopped her. Maybe.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, but this is wonderful what you're saying this morning, and of course, the teenage years. Oh, just on the note you were just talking about becoming a best friend, and you would hope for that after the teenage years, because obviously, just chronologically speaking. But given all you said, it would be very difficult, wouldn't it, to suddenly pivot after all of that, the way you've described the old way of parenting, if you like, on the 16th or 18th birthday, to say, okay, we're best friends now. It's like, okay,
that's true.
The child is like, what? You know, all of this has gone on for the last 16 or 18 years. And now you want to suddenly be my best friend.
Yes.
That's quite a switch.
And it's not possible.
It's got to be a process, isn't it? Rather than a switch.
Yeah.
I think.
Hearing of this conversation, I realise that I've put our kids in a difficult situation in the last couple of weeks.
Oh, I see. Sorry, I thought you wanted. Do you want me to go and see them now, or do you?
No. I'll go and see them in a second, because I know Solomon will want me.
I think you should stay.
I'd love to, but I know that Solomon's going to freak out any minute. But
I'll be the first to go. You stay and speak with Maria.
No, actually, what I wanted to say is, in the last couple of weeks, I've gone to Carl's meetup in São Martinho de Porto, where lots of adults go, and it's really, really busy, and there's all these really tall adults all greeting each other, saying hello, and they're all in your face. And I've gone with the kids, and I've taken little activities, and like a week and a half ago, or a week ago, we sat in a little private area so I could sit with the kids and work with them, and that maybe I could say hello to a few people. But it's not really an appropriate venue for us to do that, because people come to us because they want to say hello. And I realized yesterday my daughter was absolutely head right in my chest. She's 6, coming up 7. In fact, she's in the room, probably listening in. She was really uncomfortable because there's so many people just talking at her, loads of people she'd never met, a couple that she did know, but because everything was so loud, it was really, really overwhelming for her. So, in my desire to meet with people, I think I've put my needs way before theirs. All 3 of them were really, really uncomfortable yesterday, and they were uncomfortable the week before. So sorry, love. And to everyone on Wednesdays, I'm not going to come. I think I'll just walk by with the kids, say hello, and then go to the beach or do something like that, because it's putting them under so much stress.
You know what I suspect as well? I think some of the so-called grown-ups there as well will want to come with you to the beach and think, I don't like meetups. I only came here to see some familiar faces. I've done that now. I've had some lunch. I'm going to bugger off to the beach with the kids, and they will be welcome.
Yeah. I think the intensity of these kind of meets between brand new people who are just meeting for the first time, the kids feel the energy, don't they? They feel
for sure.
We've learned how to choke it down, haven't we?
We're really well versed in knowing how to cut it in those situations, whereas our kids don't have that.
We can't say to someone you're really getting on my nerves now. It was nice meeting you, but I've had enough. That's not what you say at a meetup, is it? As much as you might like to. Totally right, MJ. Invest in parenting is the key to avoid so many problems later on. Sarah Nom de Plume, look at this. I was raised by a stay-at-home mum who was a lunatic. She was doing her best. That's not for me to say that. Born 100 years ago this year. Wow, old-fashioned upbringing for you, Sarah. Louisa, I was and still am the mum of my daughters. Luckily, my wife.
Oh, wow.
And a question for you, MJ. May I ask, MJ, how old are your children? Because I think where LLP wants to go is, have you been Have you all been through teenagers? I think you have, Carl. And that can be, we heard it at the meetup yesterday. Somebody was there with their teenage child and they were making those eye-rolling gestures. Oh, teenagers, what are they like? I mean, in many ways, they need more of what you're talking about, don't they, MJ?
But I mean, that
for sure.
I mean, teenagers like coming into that environment also look really uncomfortable because they're put on show, aren't they? I think our kids have felt on show when they go to those things, like they've got to behave in a certain way. And of course, we just don't want them to do that.
Yeah. What would you say about teenagers then, MJ?
Well, in my experience, and I've worked, my son will be 13 in December, so he's a teenager.
Yeah.
And I've worked with teenagers all my life. And the thing is that they don't feel understood by their parents. Because they don't really shift that much. You see, it's our perspective of them. And well, it all has to do, it's like the terrible twos. Everybody talks about the terrible twos. For me, they are the wonderful twos. It's the time that they start talking, that they start exploring the world in different ways. You see? But that comes with actions and reactions that parents are not prepared to deal with.
Yeah.
Because it's like we want our children to speak, to talk, to walk and everything. And then we want them to be sitting down quietly.
And sitting still.
Yeah. Which is counter nature. You see?
Yeah.
So when they start running, jumping, climbing walls, and going all over the place when they're 2 years old, which is just natural, and they should be doing that all the time, people go like, oh my God, now what do I do? Now, they don't have the tools to connect with the kids and understand. They see that as misbehavior.
Yes.
Which
or
is
not what
just,
they want, right? It's basically, I mean, upsets are like things going against your expectations. And that's parenting
true.
is a lot about your expectations.
Yes. And when they get to, and when they get to the teenage years, that they want more freedom, that their voice, that until then, if we don't hear their voice, they will, quiet in a sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
When they become teenagers, that stops because they want their voices to be heard, and rightfully so, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes conflict happens. We want, in the authoritative method of parenting, we don't care about their opinion. It's the way I say it, and that's it.
Yeah.
And, how can that function? Because it's a relationship. If I start dictating the rules and kids don't even have a voice, well, there's no communication, and a relationship without communication, well, that's a road to disaster.
Dictatorship.
So
you could call it a dictatorship, couldn't you?
Yeah, that's true. So the teenagers are not, oh my God, Jesus Christ, what a crisis is going to be. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Because if you keep listening, if you keep sharing views, if you keep, not trying to teach all the time, because it's pathological in parents. We always want to be teaching our children something, or a lesson, or a moral thing, and just stop it. They have their own, they know where they want to go. They have their own visions, their own dreams, their own things, their own opinions. They don't want us to move the shelf in the living room from right to left. Okay, let's listen why.
Yeah.
You see their input, and you grow together.
Absolutely. I'm on that note, I'm actually going to go and check in on our youngsters.
Do some parenting.
I really just want to be really close to them at the moment. But before I go, I just want to say, love you. Can't wait to speak to you more.
I love you too. Thank you so much.
I will write to you. And just to OLP, I'm the only one that doesn't have any teenagers. But I remember what it felt like to be a teenager, and also just how awkward it is when your needs aren't getting met and when you're being told, no, you can't. This is how it is. And I find that very difficult. So I found it very difficult. Right. Lots of love to everybody.
Before you go, James will be coming with you to the beach and the kids. Already people are saying to themselves, yes, that's me. I can't bear adults. I'm going to be going to the beach.
That would be so lovely if we had like a child-centered meetup, where people would just like play ball and run around on the beach. Yes. And the kids can just be kids. That would just be perfect.
It's a deal. Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Right.
I really appreciate it.
Love you all.
Love you.
Beijinhos.
There she goes. And we're getting some lovely feedback, MJ. Maria, I called it the terrific twos for my four. I miss it, says Bob. Yeah. Who seems to have a great understanding of what you're talking about. OLP, my son and I have a fabulous relationship. He's 44, and we've always related. I thought you were saying we've always been related. It's like, yeah, but we've always related. Sometimes you have disagreements, but you don't demean or dismiss their feelings during these discussions, which will bring us back to something that Stephen interestingly says as well. Oh, another comment from Bob there before we go there. Good thoughts, approach, Maria. I was in discussion last night with a group who was adults, me at 50 plus, had to convince ourselves and reprogram that I am enough. So actually, yes, let's talk a little bit more and unpack that, because I suppose what you're saying could be, or suggesting, the philosophy, the ideas that you're putting forward, is if we bring children up and control and in an authoritarian way and give them the sense that they're not enough unless they have our approval or somebody else's approval, they might grow up as adults thinking the same thing, and 50 plus might still even feel that way.
Yes, that's why so many of us are people pleasers.
Yes.
Because we grew up having to please our parents, our teachers, our, church, whoever goes to church.
And our government.
That too. Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
So we grow up having to please people, and then it becomes a duality inside of you, because when you're by yourself, when you please people, that becomes like a disease, because you're not naturally like that, because all of us are put into this world to have our own paths, and that starts in childhood.
Yeah.
So if we get blocked in our early years and keep being blocked, either we have adults that validate us and give us an opportunity to be heard, or if every adult that we interact with blocks our visions, our ideas, we tend to become people pleasers.
Yes.
And that's when, in my experience, teenage years become so complicated, because what we get from the outside shocks with our inside.
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't want to go into a dark path, but that's sometimes when dramatic things happen in the lives of teenagers.
Agreed.
It's because they know, well, sometimes they get so confused with that people pleasing that they start not knowing who they are, and what they're doing, and what's the sense of being here, you see?
Which is quite a schizophrenic experience, of course, isn't it? That could quite easily create mental illness.
Yes,
it possibly does. Yeah. And really, I mean, this could be contributory factor to anxiety and depression in later life.
Oh yeah.
On a lighter level, why would
not so lately in life? Not so later in life.
It seems to be happening sooner and sooner. I mean, the most obvious breakdown some decades ago for people was a midlife crisis, and again, I was thinking of that because, and this idea of people needing to find themselves. Mm-hmm. If as a child your self, as it were nurtured and you were able to kind of birth and evolve that as a co-creative process, collaborative process with your parents, you might not have to go to India, or you might not have to suddenly break up your life thinking there's something not quite right here. And that is a feeling a lot of people have. Would you connect that to how people are raised as well?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Oh, you might. Okay. Here's a really interesting point from Stephen. And thank you for being here this morning. This is great. Lovely start to your residency. You'll be with us on the fourth Thursday, Indie Portugal. And we get a sense of why this is Indie Portugal. It's independent thinking, in like a little bit different from the mainstream. And another side of Portugal is what MJ will be bringing to us on these fourth Thursdays. This independent philosophy, I suppose, as well as independent producers here in Portugal on another level. We in our Gumper store, we love featuring the non-corporate, the less mainstream people, and we're going to be playing a song from Clive Gardner, who's a soul producer and musician, and we'll play out with that today. Any other contributions of an independent kind, please do share those with us, and we'll put you in our Gumper store. This is Indie Portugal Thursday. We're hearing about a different kind of parenting this morning with MJ, and Stephen makes this a very interesting point that you said, we could become best friends with our kids. And Stephen, if I can find the comment, says something about, we also point out to our best friends when they're being an idiot. Now, I guess there's a judgmental and harsh side to that. But I suppose if you do have a very good rapport with your child, you might be able to bring to their attention things that aren't functional or helpful, which I suppose he's shorthanding as being an idiot.
Well, I have a very specific opinion about that. And
Okay.
it's a little bit like when you ask a question. If somebody asks me a question and I think that question doesn't make any sense, it doesn't mean that it doesn't make any sense, because for the person who asks the question, it makes sense. So right. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I never categorize what is asked to me, and I never categorize an opinion or a behavior or action or reaction of my child, for example. So in this process of the positive parenting that I teach, is that we have to erase those labels that we have towards actions, reactions, behaviors. So the word idiot is not even on my vocabulary.
Yeah.
You see? So I understand totally, and I see the comment.
Yes.
But even if I say or think that behavior or action or reaction is idiot, it's my observation of the thing. Doesn't mean it is. You see what I mean?
Quite absolutely. And I think, I think Stephen is making the point,
but I understand what he said.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a man cave phenomenon in this community. And that's the way male best friends might relate to each other in that kind of robust way. A man, you're being an idiot. And sometimes, it could be the only language a man might hear. And then you can talk about it, having cracked his thick skull open with such an intervention. But so we totally get it. And I also get what you're saying is, I'm judging that as idiocy. Why don't we talk about this? What's really going on here? And that's just somewhere you don't start, is with those sorts of labels, because it's kind of unhelpful. Right, okay. Here's another one. So what do you think of children who are narcissistic? Isn't that an outcome rather than a starting point, though? Again, isn't that a judgment that we should own rather than is it true of the other person?
I also have a very specific opinion about this.
Oh, you might. Go on.
Which has got nothing to do with what we read or hear. I really think that we as humans need to label things and behaviors and like products in supermarket shelves.
Yes. Corporate relationships, you could call it, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Yes.
And as human beings, we are so much more than that. Than a compact thing that you put on the shelf. You're a narcissistic. You are misbehaving. You see?
Yes.
And I really think that if there is something as narcissism, it is a product of the environment you were raised in, your personality, your, how do you say, generational heritage. Your own story growing up.
Yeah.
Because when we see kids that are very, affirming of what they want, I want to go there. It's that I want to do. Sometimes we look at them as narcissists because they are looking at themselves. You see? But the thing is that sometimes narcissism is a defense mechanism that we feed from childhood because we don't have our needs met.
Quite. Yeah.
You see what I mean?
I totally do. And also, I think what happens with these labels is they get co-opted into people's coping strategies. So now, if you're able to say that person is a narcissist, you're also saying I can't cope with that person, and that's I'm not knocking that, because sometimes we can't cope with other people, and we can't cope with our responses to other people. So an easy way of dealing with that is just to say, well, they're a narcissist. That's it dealt with. It's their problem. They're a bad person. That kind of deals with my feelings about them. I've just put them in a box, including my feelings. Them and my feelings are in a box called narcissism now. So that's it. But the thing about that is, whilst that might be an understandable and actually, it's right to cope, isn't it? It's good. Human beings are born to cope, and it's right that we do. Otherwise, we would be destroyed, wouldn't we? But it's not necessarily functional, is it? It's the first step. Okay, what I've done to give myself a bit of space and first aid is to call you a narcissist.
Yes.
If this is to go any deeper or any further, we perhaps have to open that box at some time and understand what I mean by that, and for me to tell you why you're doing my head in, which I will own, but we can have a conversation about it.
Yes,
rather than live in a world of boxes. Which is I think that is perhaps the world we live in a lot of the time at the moment. Isn't it?
For sure. For sure. But that's part of the things that, it's not only in our houses, but in society, all the input that we receive, because you hear and this is common language, parents and adults in general saying, oh, that baby's having a tantrum. No, when you say he's having a tantrum, it's to put in a box lots of emotions and feelings and all the complexity of human existence in that moment in a box.
Indeed.
How is that valid? And you just press it inside yourself. Oh, having a tantrum.
Done and dusted.
How do we deal with tantrum?
Yes.
We punish, we ignore, you see, and in that fraction of a second, the child is like us adults. It's like the same thing, but they're tiny. Like when we cry as adults and we need to vent our emotions, if our heart is broken for something that we want expected to happen and doesn't happen, we get frustrated, sad, and when somebody tells, oh, you're making a tantrum out of nothing, right?
Yes,
that
stop
happens.
it. Go to your room and come out when you've pulled yourself together, which could take
when you're 47.
Oh my God! Right, MJ, it's 10 o'clock. We have.
God, really?
That's been amazing, isn't it? How that's flown by.
God, it's
I don't want to cut you off, but I also don't want to open lots of other conversational threads, because we could quite easily be here all day. We have some lovely input, and we'll see you again. We'll see you again in about a month's time.
Yes, thank you.
MJ, he's owning it. I'm often the idiot, the one with tons of ideas, some out of the box. Just ask your staff.
That's a good idiot. Idiot, I validate.
That's the kind of idiot we need on this planet.
That's the idiot with ideas. That's the only one. Not the moron.
No. Oh, look, this could be a can of worms, as we say. I'm curious about the corrective interaction. Do you believe it's ever necessary? And if so, how would...
Never.
Okay, corrective. What does that mean, though? Is he talking about physical violence, or was he talking about...
correction is when the way I interpret it, I'm seeing this is when a child behaves in a certain way and that we need to correct.
Okay. All right.
Well, I never think we need to correct. We just have to go with the flow and understand I never correct my child.
Right.
Never did. Never will. Hopefully,
Yes.
I
Well,
don't fall into that trap.
this is an alternative or a supplement to that question. Love and hug your children. That would work. That could help, couldn't it?
All the
Thank you,
time.
OLP. Thank you, OLP, for that. And each other. Don't forget that. I think you said that yesterday, didn't you? Did you not, MJ? Tell people you love them.
Yes.
And yes.
Whenever you feel it, just tell them.
Whenever you feel it, say it. Because you do it with a lot of other things you're feeling. Like idiot comes out. Idiot comes out quite easily. Why not try and I love you from time to time?
Yes.
If
you feel, you just go. It takes 5 seconds to send a text to someone telling them, I love you.
That could change the day of the world, couldn't it?
Totally. Imagine 10,000 people right now sending a text to 3 different people saying, I love you.
Well, how about
Imagine that?
Well, let's not just talk about it, folks. And I will do this as well. Do it now, because I'm a bit busy. But by the end of the show, I will send those 3 texts. I will sit quietly.
Oh my God!
And I will see who comes up in my mind's eye or my heart. And I will send them that text. Could I suggest that everyone does that this morning? And let's see what happens, shall we, this morning?
With no self-preservation, past people, present people, everyone. Just because there happens a lot of healing. A lot of healing.
Let's see what happens, shall we?
With no fear.
Feel Good Friday tomorrow. We're upping the stakes already on that. So yes, 3 I love yous, everybody. This is
my God, thank you for doing that.
It's the love bomb boot camp. I'm not saying drop and give me 3 press ups. I'm saying just sit still and give it 3 I love yous. How about that? Another way to get someone's attention. Sorry, MJ, go on.
No, it's okay. Even if you feel afraid to send those texts, because sometimes it's frightening to certain people to send to specific people, but just do it anyway. Just do it.
About 25 years ago, I did it and remember doing this to my eldest daughter. And her response was, "Are you thinking of killing yourself?" I mean, that tells you something, doesn't it?
Yes.
My God.
That's true.
Yes. Another way to get someone's attention when they're being an idiot with bunny ears, in our opinion, can be to ask, how's that working for you? One of our favorite questions, Bob? It helped me a lot for sure. And Bob, I think speaking from the heart there, I can feel that, Bob. Thank you very much. This is a funny. Thank you, Joelle. We'll do some dad jokes in just a minute because we have those every day here, MJ. Says the narcissist. Now that we've talked about me, let's talk about you. What do you think of me? Very good. Thank you very much. Bon dia, Joelle, from all of us, including OLP there. I'm not a mother yet. But I've been loving to hear you, Maria João.
Oh, thank you.
Actually, I'm the cool auntie. Oh, that's a lovely position in life, isn't it? Which is also a very important side of my niece's education. Yes, well done. Keep that up. Tia Anna, does your husband parent the same way, MJ? A question from OLP.
That's a great question. I'm not with my child's father, and we kind of did until a certain level.
Okay.
We share some visions, but not everything.
Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you for that question. Thank you for answering that, MJ. I'm a huge advocate of demonstrating how to be angry in a healthy way in a safe environment.
Yes.
There you go. That could be part of another side of that sort of corrective intervention thing. Yeah. And this is Anna's Tia Anna. The trust she has in me makes me a huge help for my sister and niece's connection. She's 14, I'm 27, and my sister is 41. So we are talking about very different generations here. What a lovely! I would watch that program or the series made of that. The interplay between the niece, the auntie, and the mother.
That's true.
I mean, that's a lovely vignette of life, isn't it? 3 women there, a young woman, 14, 27, and 41. That would be amazing, wouldn't it? What a lovely basis
for sure.
Comedy and a drama right there. So if they want to do something that you as an adult deem dangerous, just let them do it. Okay, we're carrying on with that line of questioning. What do you think?
Well,
danger.
There are things that as an adult and even as teenagers and we're not around, they will do anyway. So what we can do is just give them the tools and the information that sometimes they don't even need. I mean, sometimes they just know it inside.
Yes.
And if they still want to do it, it's like bungee jumping. Well, it's dangerous, but what are we going to do? Yes. That's the way, Do we want them to experience life as an adventure, or as a safety thing that you have to check all your steps, or just,
That's so interesting you say that, MJ.
But that depends on the dangerous things.
No,
For
I understand,
example,
but you said
substance use.
Yes.
That's something that you have to prepare them ever since they are very young.
Yes.
To know the consequences, and not say, "Oh, you can't do that in my house," because if they want to do it, they will do it anyway.
Well, that's what I was just about to say. That's what you said. They're going to do it anyway. That's a sobering message to parents. They are going to do it anyway, probably, aren't
For
they?
sure.
So why not have the conversation? And yes, be best prepared. And that is
be open to all conversations, conversations.
And life can be awkward, can't it, sometimes? And that might be one of those awkward moments. But in the awkward moments, sometimes the greatest outcomes can also arise. And that might be one of them too, mightn't it? Oh, look at this. Bless you, Darren. On the 3 I love yous, what if they don't say it back? Oh.
Okay. So that's when the expectations here enter. When we do this and say "I love you" to someone, we often expect them to answer us. The thing is, it's not for them, just for them. It's mostly for us to heal. And I could even tell you a story, a short story, if you still have the time.
Of course, yeah.
It happened to me very recently during my healing process.
Yes.
And I got in touch with a very special person in my life for, from 25, 30 years ago. And we are great friends, but we had a sort of a relationship.
Mm.
And 30 years later, I knew that that person was in love with me 30 years ago. Wow. Or 25 years ago. And we never said it to each other.
Oh, my word.
You see? So when we don't say it in the moment, we miss out having a beautiful love story.
Yes.
And heartbreak happens. And he was hurt for a long time. And I was obviously hurt for a long time because we never communicated our feelings, our deeper feelings towards each other.
Yes.
You see? So opportunities and beautiful stories are lost when we don't say, "I love you. This is what I feel," because we hold it back because we're afraid that it's not, they don't say it back or they don't reciprocate. But the thing is, they don't even have to reciprocate. You have to let it out.
Yes. It's on the supply side there, Darren. That's where the magic will be.
Yeah, because they will, the right person, the right people, the ones that are connected with us, to us, will say it back, one way or the other.
Do you know what? I thank you for that beautiful story and then illustrating that, MJ. I started the hugging culture in my family.
That's beautiful.
Well, no, with my parents. My dad's not here anymore, but they never used to hug me much as a kid. I don't remember us being huggy people. Mm-hmm. Hugging didn't start in the United Kingdom until about 1995, I think.
Wow.
And I started doing it, and I took a risk.
Oh, bless you.
It just became normal. And that's what happens. I think that's part of possibly what you're talking about as well. We naturalize, not normalize. Normal's not great. None of us like normal here, I don't think. Yeah, but naturalizing things is so helpful. And Darren, give it a go. I moved.
Yes.
I've already had my first "I love you." Philomene, I love you too. That's just come in on my WhatsApp.
That's so beautiful. Oh my God, this is delicious.
Amazing. Look, hold on a minute. I just need to wipe my face here, MJ. Great suggestion from Victoria. This is not a joke, is it? You can text the loved ones, can't you? Even if you send it on your own to yourself, why not? That saying it out loud, express is so important, isn't it? So James, well said. Well said. Don't forget to send the love. Say it out loud to the ones who've gone as well.
That's true.
Also, another warning. Yes, love and hug your children, but do not get carried away.
to the joke.
That's bad parenting. Thank you, Joel. When I grow up, I still want to be a child. Fair enough, Antonio. I love bombs. I realized a few years ago that the Beatles had a good point. All we need is love. Sent 3. She's already done it. The OLP.
Yes. Thank you.
To get carried away. Unconditional love does not require reciprocity. It is enough that we love them.
That's it.
There you go. That's possibly for Darren, but not just for Darren. The Beatles just wanted to sell more records. Stop it, you old. We all know people that cringe even at being hugged, but I know they secretly enjoy the hug and the love. Brilliant. Or ask them, have the conversation. We only, like you said before, MJ, a relationship without communication is a nice
work.
It just doesn't work, does it? I mean, you could say a relationship is communication, right?
Yes, for sure. Yes.
We only control ourselves. We control nothing outside of ourselves. So we can only say, I love you. The rest is up to them. James.
That's it.
My God. And Maria is a thoughtful speaker. There's your first review. I totally
thank
agree.
you.
I think I missed about 257. Let me get that right. Love stories just by not speaking up at the right time. Bless you, Joelle. Not too late.
Not too late. That's true.
Also got slapped in the face 500 times. Was it prior to Rocha Beach? Right. Kiss both cheeks. All right. Oh, Maria, look, it's 12 minutes past 10. We do.
Oh my God. I just wanted to say one thing on your note.
Please do.
You said about you hugging your children.
Yes.
If we go back to when we're babies, we are always held. So we need to keep that holding thing until forever, because that's part of our nature as humans and as animals, even to be hugged and the connection. So we do need that all the time.
Well said. Well said. And if you're a little bit uncomfortable with it, I mean, talk about that as well. And that can change, can't it? Yeah.
Because hugs are healing. It's scientifically proven that a 20-second hug has the ability to heal.
Yes. And
like a good cry.
That's right. And being called an idiot has the potential to ruin your life for 20 years. Remember that.
That's true.
Yes, it's so true. Okay, we have Mrs. Tompkins. This will be a bit unusual for you, perhaps, MJ, but thank you, Chris, for recording Mrs. Tompkins with a little apple pie recipe, apparently.
Oh,
hello there. Cobra Munson and the Mrs. It's me, Mrs. Tompkins. I'm not sure if you remember me because my memories, I can't remember you. But I do know that you wanted to know about some recipes, dear. Yes, well, I've got a lovely salmon recipe because I've discovered pesto sauce. I like a bit of Italian. And if you get some tinfoil and rub some butter on it, put some seasoning on there, and I use block spinach defrosted and put on a salmon fillet on top and then some lemon juice and then smother that in that lovely pesto sauce, dear. Bit of salt and pepper. Seal it up in a little tin foil. Put it in an oven. Gas mark 6, dear. And then bake it for about 8 minutes. And that comes out proper beautiful, dear. Oh, it's so nice. It's a good one to tempt anybody you're on a date with,
Dating
a bit of Prosecco, a carver, they say, and the night's away.
Night's away.
Keep safe. One love to the family and everybody in Portugal.
Oh, very nice.
Wow.
That's very beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
I have to say, it's the worst apple pie recipe I've ever heard, but good dating advice. Thank you very much for that. Okay, let's try these on you, MJ. It's a little bit of a palate cleanse at the end of the show here today. More relationship matters here. My wife left because of my gambling addiction. Hopefully, I can win her back. No. I bought my wife are these all wife related today? I bought my wife a new refrigerator for her birthday. Her face lit up when she opened it. That's good. I like that. Okay. And there's another one. I can't see it on there, but I've got it in another source here, I think. Oh, I joined a dating site for arsonists. I've already got a lot of matches. Oh, MJ liked that one. Okay. And finally, who knew in South Korea there's an emergency number to report spies? Just write that down in case you need it if you're in South Korea. 113, the number to report spies. You should definitely have some of this, MJ. Thank you so much for being here. What an amazing debut. Will you come back on the 4th day of November for a bit of Thursday?
Thank you so much for having me.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And if you go to this website, I will put the link for this lovely website, uptokids.pt. Is that the best place to find at least part of your work? Because there are many
part
other
of my work, yes.
A part of your work. There are many other aspects to you
many.
and the Renaissance woman that you are. So there's one link to Maria's work there. I wish you a great day. Bon dia to you.
Thank you too. I love you too. Thank you so much.
Thank you, OLP, who's also sent me that message. I love you, OLP. Love bombing it this morning. Thank you.
Oh my God, this is so beautiful.
Isn't it amazing? And let me just give you this round of applause as well. I love you too, MJ. Look at that. Love MJ.
Oh, I love you too. I love you.
You can't go without hearing these. Isn't that fantastic?
How about we do this every day?
Okay.
How about we do this every day? Sending the messages. 3 messages a day.
How about that? How about that?
God.
What a wonderful thing you started, MJ. It's so great to have you here. Take care. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. You too. Beijinhos.
Bye. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao. Beijinhos.
There she goes. Wow. Wasn't that a very special program this morning? That wasn't Mrs. Doubtfire. And you're not talking about MJ, of course. You're talking about Mrs. Tompkins, who sent us her lovely seared salmon. Who doesn't like to sear their salmon first thing in the morning? Absolutely wonderful this morning, and a five-handed round of applause and a couple of love hearts from Bob there. Beijinhos MJ as well from Anna, the wonderful Tia Anna, who told us all about her niece, and Te amo, beijinhos as well. What a wonderful atmosphere you've all created this morning. And we'll go out with some soul-y vibes. I'm sure there are things I've missed this morning, absolutely sure of it. But thank you for being here, everybody. We're going to play out with some soulful music, courtesy of Clive Gardner, a Gumper, a part of this community, celebrating the completion of the CEF process, the D7 process. I think that's it anyway. But suffice to say, for Clive and his lovely lady, they are officially a part of being Portuguese residents here. So congratulations to you guys for that. And thank you so much, Clive, as well, for letting us play one of your tunes. This guy is amazing. Been making soul music right back to the 80s, I believe. And we have a few people in common. And I think we even lived on the same street, did we not, in Southall, in West London. And we have a lot of musical appreciation in common. And you are an incredible musician yourself. You've created this tune, and it's got 80s vibes, but it was recorded this year, right, Clive? So we're so grateful to you. Please send your music in. If you're an indie producer, creator of any kind, whether it be food, healing, a business, or an artist or a musician like Clive is, send those products in. Let us list them in the Gumper store, and let's go out with a little bit of enjoyment of Hold On Tight here, the OG Redux.
Don't let nobody take those dreams away from you.
another try.